First and foremost, thank you very much for doing this. Tremendously enjoyed your presentation in the morning at the conference. I think it was a befitting keynote type address. What I want you to sort of trace for our viewers is because we've all grown up on ACK, we've consumed it, stolen it from libraries, bookstores, etc. The journey of ACK and what has been happening in the past 57 years, starting with the Krishna title, which was I think the first one. Yes.
So the history in a nutshell.
Yes.
57 years ago, our founder, the legendary Mr. Anand Pai, had this idea that Indian children should be connected to their own roots, and to provide a critical root to your roots, and that's the phrase that he coined, and that's how Amar Katha was born, with Krishna being the first title. The first Indian title. There were actually 10 Western fairy tales which were printed first. So Krishna actually carries number 11 on it.
I see.
Yes,
interesting trivia.
A little bit of trivia. Tinkle was founded in 1980. So while Amar Katha is all of non-fiction, so it's history, mythology, culture, folk tales, Tinkle sits in the space of fiction with our own IP, our own characters like Supandi and Shambhu and the new ones as well, Wingstar and Defective Detectives and all of them. And Tinkle does a lot of fiction as well as non-fiction, of course, with science and those kind of features, but a more contemporary take. So both the brands are live and kicking, thriving. With Amar Katha, we continue to publish a new book pretty much every month. Tinkle also, we just published our 810th issue. So it's been 44 years of an uninterrupted run. And the vision remains the same that our founder had, which is to connect Indian children with their Indian roots and give them a strong sense of an Indian identity.
Correct.
And I think that's become the need of the hour even more now, because today's children are growing up in such a connected world, and they're so exposed to what the rest of the world has to offer that global identity needs to be balanced with a strong sense of self, an Indian identity. Only those two, only if they go together, then will they be well-rounded individuals. So we take that mission very seriously. We have, of course, multiple channels, multiple formats. So we continue to be very strong on print. That remains the core. So we do about 3.5 million copies of print every year.
Which is very, very heartening, and which is, I'm told, also a growing number, right?
It is a growing number. We've been having a very healthy 25 to 30% growth year on year for the last 4 years. And what's most heartening to me is that at a company level, almost 85% of our revenues come from core readership, right? So it's not advertising, it's not sponsorship, it's not licensing, it's core readership. That means a reader somewhere is paying us money to read what we have created. And that readership is spread over millions of customers. So that's a very stable base to operate a business out of, because you could have a big advertiser who might disappear 1 year and be here 1 year and not be here the next. But when you have 3, 4, 5 million consumers, they don't disappear overnight, and that's a very, very heartening thing. So 85% of the revenue is readership. From that readership revenue, about 75% is print, 25% is digital. We run our own apps. We have an Amar Katha app, a Tinkle app, an ACK Junior app. They're paid apps. They've never been free. And almost 30% of the users on the app are from out of India.
Nice.
So it's helped us to really create that global presence in a sense.
So I know that there's huge fan following. It's massive, in fact, and there's a kind of a cult. And again, I had friends who were at Hyderabad, and I think you had alluded to that as well. Again, if you can give us a sense of what typically happens there, because I think A, the madness, and B, the frenzy around what's happening around these characters. If you can give us a little peek into that world, and what kind of creatures inhabit it.
So with Amar Katha and Tinkle, actually it's very interesting because we straddle multiple boats. The two, in terms of genres, in industries we play in the entertainment space. We're also very strong on the education space. And like I always tell the team that we can never become so serious that the entertainment guys find us boring. And we can never become so crazy and fun that the education industry thinks of us as frivolous, right? We need to balance both this. So there has to be a certain depth and a gravitas and a authenticity that we bring. At the same time, it has to be fun and it's comics, right? So it has to have that that fun and that joy in it.
Yeah, true.
Comic-Con has been a wonderful outing
Platform,
for
yeah.
us, wonderful platform.
Yeah.
So we do 5 Comic-Cons in India.
Oh, wow.
We take part in all 5. In
mm.
fact, Chennai is going to be this weekend. It's the first time Chennai Comic-Con is happening.
Nice.
So this we've done Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and now Chennai. And in July, for the first time, we went to the San Diego Comic-Con as well.
Ah, nice,
So
nice.
we were perhaps one of the few, or maybe the only Indian company to really take up a large booth at an international Comic-Con and
Yeah.
present there.
Yeah.
And Comic-Cons are a great experience. It's a great way to interact with your end consumer. So there are different kinds of groups who would come to Namachita Katha Tinkle stall. So there is the whole nostalgia piece.
Of course.
So there is people like you and me from our generation who've grown up on ACK and Tinkle and who just feel the sense of joy when they see the
Yeah.
booth. In fact, in San Diego we had all these NRIs. I'm not kidding. Like some of them broke into tears. Right? They were just so emotionally so moved to see an ACK at a global Comic Con. Right? So you have this whole nostalgia crowd which feels that instant connection and that sense of like going back to their childhood. And at the same time, they're trying to introduce their children now to what we have. Then you have these diehard fans who are fans of Supandi or fans of Shambhu and who are very happy to buy merch with their presence on them. So whether it's t-shirts or tote bags or bobbleheads, and they want to be a part of that. There's a lot of engagement that happens. So we do a lot of quizzes. This time we launched a new book called Devas. So Rana Raghubati launched the book on the stage and he conducted the quiz. And we had like 1,000 people in front of him. It was crazy. The crowd was really went crazy. And
so again, curious to know, I mean, of course, there is the repository and there is this massive backlist. I think 500 titles is what you mentioned here. Also curious to know how quickly are you adding new titles and what is the sort of genres you normally sort of explore?
So the genres remain the same.
Okay.
In Amachita Katha, it's like I said, the non-fiction piece. So it's history, mythology, folk tales. Those are the 3 broad areas. In Tinkle, we do a lot of contemporary issues. But we are publishing at a never before pace. So in the 70s, 80s, when we used to publish one new ACK a month, 32 pages. So roughly 400 pages a year were being created. Last year we did about 2,000 new pages.
Nice.
So the pace of creation itself is more than ever before in our history. Of course, technology enables a lot of it to happen that much faster.
True.
But I feel that as a team we are very, very obsessively passionate about the fact that we have to connect with today's generation. Because otherwise you end up becoming a nostalgia brand and the story is over in 10 years.
That's true. That's true.
It's a very small window that we have, right, to make sure that we are connecting with today's readers. So you can't give a child who's growing up in 2024 something made in 1975 and say like, now this is supposed to work for you.
Correct.
The child is not going to consume it. The child might be forced to pick it up because the parent is giving it to you, but you can't force them to read the whole thing.
That's right.
So it's very important that we create new content. It's very important that we are platform agnostic. So if somebody wants to read digitally, sure, read digitally. You want to read in print, read in print. You want to listen to a story on Audible or Spotify, we should make that available as well.
Nice.
We are storytellers. We are storytellers, we are content creators. Whichever way you choose to consume that content, we make it
also
available.
I saw something interesting outside because there was that display table, etc. So you had board games and you had jigsaw puzzles and so again, I mean, for me that was a first time experiential engagement with that. So what's happening on that front and how successful?
So again, those are baby steps.
Okay.
We took a lot of baby steps, forays into different things, and they've met amazing response. It's been wonderful response. See, board games and puzzles are also natural extension from our print-heavy background. It's very easy for us to produce those because we have the whole ecosystem set up from a printing perspective and the content perspective as well. And the insight is that there are people who might not want to read, who are not comic book lovers, but they still want to consume culture. They still want to have a piece of a Supandi, or they still want to know be connected to the Ramayana in some way. So creating that board game, creating that puzzle helps them to connect, and it's a natural leverage of our IP.
Core strength,
Our core strength in licensing in various fields. So over the next 12 months, we're going to come up with at least another dozen more different kind of card games, board games.
Nice.
The culture is growing, and I'm personally a big fan of them. So
great. And just 2 questions. One is pedagogy, because I know you've been again taking a foray in that, and it's interesting because once upon a time ACK used to traditionally, you had the conservative mindset in universities and schools, frown upon all this. But now it's interesting to see how they've embraced. So again, if you can share what's happening with the school experience and how is it sort of, because you're also, for me what's interesting is you're also growing a new set of reading, citizens, which is great.
So when Uncle Pai was trying to convince people,
Yeah.
educationists, of the learning value of comics. So there's scientific research which shows that the combination of visuals and text together creates a very strong imprint on the brain that
Yep.
you cannot forget. It actually opens up new neural networks and pathways. He was really trying, but comics was seen as very frivolous in
Yep.
those days.
Yep.
Padhai karo, uske baad mein you can read a comic. It was something that was a guilty pleasure, right? It wasn't always looked down upon. But now you have a whole generation of people who don't remember anything they read in their school history books or anything they were taught in school, but they remember vividly ACK panels.
That's true.
And all that whole generation of people, they are now parents, they're now educationists, they're librarians, they're teachers, they're principals. So now we have a tailwind supporting us, right?
Nice.
Now they get it that,
Right.
what, this matters.
Yeah, yeah.
This helps, this
Yeah.
actually works.
Right.
So we are trying to integrate into core textbook content as well. So if you have
Nice.
for example, we've done some work with TES Orbit, with Madhuban Books, where it's a chapter on Rana Pratap, and then at the end there's 2 pages of Amar Chitra Katha content which is integrated into the textbook itself. So it's part of the learning. Or we have schools who have taken on a bulk digital subscription. So 1,000 kids have taken the digital subscription. They all read the same story. So Razia Sultan, they'll all go home and read it on their devices and come back, and next day there's a 1-hour discussion in class on that topic.
Nice.
So trying to integrate into, and the power of digital to reach even the smallest of, today if there's an NGO, say in Uttarakhand, who contacts us and requests for a donation, I can give them a few books at best, right? But if they have Wi-Fi access, I can give them access to the whole library. I can open up the entire library to all those children. And that's very, very powerful. So both in terms of revenue as well as in terms of real impact and creating readership, it's very powerful.
And personal question, I mean, we discussed this prior to this interview, is this, scientific icons. One is, of course, history, mythology, and I think Vikram Sarabhai.
We did Vikram Sarabhai recently, yes.
So any more of those? Because that's again something we are finding an
We've
absence.
also done a lot of women pathbreakers.
Nice.
So Muthulakshmi Reddy,
Oh,
the
lovely.
first botanist, the first doctor, all of them, Anandibai Joshi, we've done all those as well. And we'll continue to them. APJ Abdul Kalam has been one of our best-selling titles.
Right.
Homi Bhabha is also something we want to do. So, icons, in fact, also icons of industry. So we did the Godrej books last year. So we did,
I remember Amul as well,
it's Varghese Kurian. So that we continue to do.
Yeah.
Another imprint we are working on is iconic brands and brand stories. That's another very powerful, like brands which post-independence have defined the Indian experience. Whether it's a Bajaj scooter or Parle G biscuit, like what does that biscuit mean, right, to an Indian? What is it's much more than just a biscuit brand. The psychographics of it is very, very deep. So I want to also tell those stories. Because if you want Indian children to have a sense of India pride and have that sense, you have to tell them the stories of India, of post-independence India, for them to feel that sense. And in Tinkle, we are doing a lot of very contemporary issues. Right from latest issue, we have a child who is a 10-year-old who is facing depression. Right? And this is a reality. There is childhood, adolescent depression is a reality, something we should talk about.
Sure.
Right? We're talking about single parenting, we're talking about divorced parents, we're talking about gender fluidity, a lot of things that children are asking questions about.
Bullying.
And bullying, so Tinkle is the way to tell that, address those issues. We have this beautiful 44-year-old, which the parent trusts. Most importantly, the parent knows Tinkle is a safe space. If you give my kid a Tinkle magazine or a Tinkle app, there's going to be nothing which is going to influence them in a negative manner. So we're trying to do all of these.
One final question. I mean, as I shared with you that I had a small 0.001%.
Yes, I was so delighted to hear
so
about
doing the
that.
coloring in that little studio in Mahim. I'm curious to know. I mean, what has been this the secret masala or the recipe which has sort of ensured this has continued for so long, endured, and why is it going on, and also the fact that it's actually tangibly adding to readership, and how is it doing and why is it doing it? I mean, because the reason to ask this is also so that more and more publishing houses can replicate this, hopefully, and the readership increases.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know what is the secret sauce, to be honest. I think it's quite intangible.
Right.
And I always introduce myself as a current CEO.
Okay.
It's a 57-year-old company. We're just the current team.
That's
there was many teams before us, and there'll be many after us.
True.
Who kind of keep the flag, flying high. The company has survived like 2 wars, pandemic, the building caught fire and burned down. All sorts of things have happened, but it's still around because I think the real power is in the stories. There is. I mean, India has a 5,000-year tradition of storytelling.
Yep.
The power is in the stories, and
Yep.
stories never get old, and stories never get boring.
That's true.
And in our company, because of the unbroken legacy of the passing on of craft, right, from Uncle Pai to, he hired Savio Mascarenhas, who's our group director today, art director. He's been there for 30 years.
That's
He
true.
hired and trained Reena Puri and groomed her to be the executive editor. She's with us for more than 34 years.
Yep.
So these people have, the craft has passed on in a very unbroken tradition.
Nice.
And hopefully we are doing the same thing with the next generation. So the iconic Amar Chitra Katha style, the iconic Tinkle way of communicating something, that has remained intact.
Yep.
Now what is that formula? I don't know. I don't have a word for it.
Right.
But there is that secret sauce, which like how a famous chef has a secret sauce, which only he knows how it gets
True.
put together. It's like that.
Well said. Thank you very much for doing this, and I hope more and more people read
Please keep
ACK.
reading, and yeah, requesting anybody who's watching this to please go and check out our new titles.
Right.
Everybody who says that they have the whole ACK collection actually doesn't, because we
that's
released a
true.
book just last Sunday, which I'm sure you don't have. It's
Right.
called, latest release is called Devas.
Yes.
And it's got 10 lesser known Indian deities,
Okay.
which were worshipped in the ancient tradition. So right from Agni to Prithvi, the Vedic,
natural
the
elements,
Vedic,
yeah.
Vedic deities.
Nice.
So would request everyone to check that out. And
Please do.
thank you so much.
We'll
Thank
put
you
a
for
QR
having me.
code or something.
Please do. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks.